Hello. I would like to first and foremost take this time to thank the staff for allowing me to serve in this capacity. And the other thing is to thank the staff for participating in the listening tour. I heard from about 1,000 people. They gave their feedback and input on the top 10 things they would like to see in the district. And one really important piece is the Uniform Discipline Code policy and how we follow that. To that end, I would like to share that effective immediately, we are going to enforce the district's Uniform Discipline Code policy, and that will include some suspensions. It will also include high expectations for all children, all students, as well as staff. We will follow that to the letter. We have procedures in place to help with this. We are going to send a very clear message. We have high expectations for the students and staff in the Grand Rapids Public Schools. This is not a new policy, but it will be enforced. The other thing I would like to make staff very aware of is you will be empowered to do the work that is necessary. That includes principals, teachers, support staff. We will all be empowered to do the work that is necessary in order to create a learning environment for all students. This may be painful in the first 30 days, but that's okay. We will get there. I wanted you to hear this directly from me. Both you will receive an email, but also I wanted you to hear it, to see me in this video. I will share the information with parents, with students, and with staff members throughout the district, what the expectations are around public acts, as well as having clear expectations for all students. This is right in line with our IFL, our Institute for Learning, the training, having clear expectations, and we will share those with our students as well as with our families. I want to let you know that we will begin the training right away. Starting in the next couple of weeks, we will start training staff on how to enforce this process, this policy. You will have questions. You can call the office. You can talk to your principal. But we ask that you hold parent meetings, and we have staff members that are willing to come out and support you in this. The other thing that I would like to share is the information around public acts. There are those acts that we have to follow by law, which will require longer suspensions and or expulsions of students. We will work with families in this community to share the information with them. My expectations for staff is that you are very fair, firm, and consistent. This is going to be very important for students and our families, that they understand the process. But I also plead with you to be very fair when we are pushing out punishments for students. It is not our goal to put students out and not have them participate in the educational process, but it is our expectation that we follow our own policy. We will enforce a dress code. I want you to be aware of the process. We will no longer accept sagging pants and inappropriate dress. It's very important that we set high expectations for our students as well as ourselves, so not just students. The other thing we have is positive behavior intervention support. We will continue with that. We will reward students for positive behavior. On the other side, students that are not following the rules will not be accepted in our schools. We will have training both online as well as in person to help you understand the Uniform Discipline Code policy and answer any questions that you may have. We will update this policy towards the end of the year, so we will give you an opportunity to have a voice in what that should look like. However, we will connect that back to the laws in the state of Michigan. The other thing that I would like for you to be aware of is over the next few months, we will hold night meetings for parents, for students, as well as for staff members if you would like to attend, to explain what this new process is going to look like as far as dress, expectations, following policy, and due process. We want to be fair. We would like for you to maintain a very professional way of acting when it comes to students. Use your public safety officers, your principals. You can call the district office. We can get someone out to support you. We are more than welcome to come to your parent meetings, to assemblies, to talk to students. We want to get the message out. We are going to go to people in this community and ask that they help for us to enforce this policy throughout the district. I'm available. If you would like to call me, please do. I would like to hear from you. I want people to understand. There's one other thing. I'm asking for volunteers throughout the city of Grand Rapids, and if you know of any volunteers, please have them call me. I would like for volunteers to be deputized, to help us with truancy, attendance, working with parents. It is much bigger than any of us. We need to invite the community in and ask for their support. I have heard from many people in this community. They want to help. This is one initiative that people can become involved in to help us help our students. Again, I would like to thank you for taking the time with me, for providing input, and I would like for you to continue to offer your support. Thanks.
Item on the agenda. Our second item on the agenda is concerning our uniform discipline code. And to present that today, we have a team here from Student Services, and I will let them introduce themselves and work through the topic.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to thank you very much for allowing us some time on your Professional Development Day agenda. We greatly appreciate it. The Student Services Department has some very interesting and exciting information to share with you, and myself, Maddie Hampton, and Susan Terrell, and Ebony Farley will be your presenters today, okay? And as you can see, today's presentation is going to be recorded. It is our hope that everything goes well, that this particular presentation will become a training for the district. And whenever we're unavailable to do the presentation ourselves. The superintendent of schools have expressed a renewed focus on student discipline, okay? And wanted to make sure that everybody in the district have all the same information regarding the Uniform Disciplinary Code. And this will be for all staff, all students, and all parents as well. And some of the information that we're going to cover today in our presentation, we'll be highlighting some specific areas as it relates to discipline policies, procedures, and guidelines, okay? So bear with us. And each one of you have been given a handbook, and inside your handbook you will find a couple items that are paper clipped together. You will find an index card, a pre-test, a state mandate grid, and some note paper. The index card is for you to write down or record any questions that you may have of us that you'd like to ask us in regards to our presentation. And at the end of our presentation, there will be a question and answer period. If by chance we do not have time to get to all questions, the plan for the Student Services Department is to create a newsletter. Part of that newsletter will be a discipline question answer section, okay? So if it's not answered today, at some point in time, your question will be addressed, okay? Also, the pre-test. We want to find out exactly what's your current knowledge level of the Discipline Uniform Code, okay? So if you would take a few minutes to complete that, and then we will collect that, okay? And then the state mandate grid will be addressed later on in the presentation. We just want to make sure you have a copy of that. And the final item is the note paper if you want to take notes as we're going through our presentation today. Okay? So what I'm going to do is just pause here for a few minutes and give you a few minutes to do the pre-test, okay? In that activity, we greatly appreciate it. As you can see, we have entitled our presentation, Discipline 101, Fair, Firm, and Consistent. Reason being, when acts of misconduct are committed and when issuing consequences, they are addressed fairly. The consequence is firm and appropriate for the offense. And we are consistent in how the consequences are administered across the district. That's the very first point regarding the importance of this particular presentation. The second point is that for this presentation is that we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page regarding the renewed focus of discipline and how discipline impacts the learning environment. When the Uniform Disciplinary Code is adhered to and rules are being followed and the learning environment is safe and orderly
and learning is taking place, it's a guarantee that we will see an increase in student achievement. And that's our overall goal, increase student achievement, where there's less time on discipline and more time on learning. And those are basic 4 rules regarding the reason why we wanted to put together this presentation for staff, student, and parents. We know that discipline is not just the school's responsibility. It is a team effort. Just like educating our child, all children is a team effort. And that team consists of staff, parents, and students. And not one group can do it all by themselves. Everyone has to work together. And everyone has specific responsibilities regarding working with our children. And I'm going to just start with addressing the staff responsibilities first, okay? As a staff, we must make sure that we set a tone by providing a stimulating learning climate or classroom for all students. Make sure it's inviting to them. We must address the academic, the social, and behavioral needs of the students, okay? We have to address the whole child, the good child, the not so good child, the indifferent child, but the whole child nonetheless, okay? We must have clear academic and behavioral expectations that all students are aware of and thoroughly understand. We must address concerns with parents in a timely fashion. Do not wait too long before we address any particular issues and concerns we may be having with regarding their child. We must demonstrate respect toward all students. Treat the students the way you would want another adult to treat your child. We must display professional behaviors with students, other staff, and parents. Always make sure your best foot is forward because, like my mother will always say, someone is always watching. Okay? The second group that's part of this team are our parents. The role of the parent is truly essential. I see the parent role as the glue that holds the team together. The parent has to be on board. Some of the parent responsibilities consist of making sure their child attends school regularly, is on time, and prepared to learn. Parents should talk to their child about appropriate school behaviors, where they are reinforcing the school rules and regulations. Parents should address issues and concerns with respect and in a professional manner. They should approach the school staff in the same manner that they would want to be approached and deserve to be approached in. We are asking our parents to assist the school in addressing any behavior or academic concerns relating to their child. The students should see the school working with the parents as opposed to, opposite ends of the spectrum. We are asking parents to visit the school regularly, to become involved, because studies show that when children's parents are involved, they exhibit fewer behavior problems, they receive better grades, they have better attendance, they have a more positive attitude, and there's a higher graduation rate. And parents that are involved in the school have more confidence in themselves, more confidence in the school staff, and have a positive opinion of the school, and have a positive working relationship with the school. Parents should instill in their child respect for the rules and regulations of the school, where the child is hearing the same message at home and at school. Another responsibility of the parents is to encourage academic excellence. Become familiar with the child's academic requirements. Ask daily about homework assignments. Provide a comfortable place to study, hopefully away from the TV and away from all the music. And make sure the parents see their child studying. Check their grades regularly and attend parent-teacher conferences on a regular basis. The third group on this team are our students, and they have responsibilities as well. And their responsibilities consist of to attend school and to attend class daily, to be prepared, to be properly dressed, to be on time, to strive for academic excellence, to be engaged in the learning that's occurring in the classroom, to be aware of and adhere to the schools and the classroom rules and regulations, to respect the rights and property of other students, staff, and administrators. Treat others the way you would want to be treated, and if it's not yours, leave it alone. To adhere to the Uniform Disciplinary Code, for student conduct. Read it, know it, and follow it. And finally, to assist in maintaining a safe and orderly learning environment. To be a leader, to set a positive example for others. And when all those members of the team, when they come together, when they support each other, and they value what each one brings to the table, then it's a win-win for everyone. The superintendent had asked that we pay particular attention to the section on dress code. And you will find information on page 11 in your handbook regarding the dress code. And I want to share with you a quote from the superintendent, and it goes like this. And she states, "I want to be clear on one expectation related to the dress code. Saggy pants will no longer be tolerated, and staff are empowered and will be supported to ensure this is implemented with full fidelity," unquote. Other areas of emphasis surrounding the school dress code are: shoes must be worn at all times, no vulgar, obscene attire that promotes unlawful activities associated with gang activities, no shirts or attire that depicts language in reference to substance use, no shirts or attire that reference individuals that have passed, such as rest in peace or RIP, because the superintendent strongly stated that a culture of high expectations and high standards must be established in our schools. At least once a week, in some form or fashion, the Student Services Department is explaining to someone or answering questions about just when is a uniform disciplinary code in effect, or what constitutes a school day. And we hope to kind of clarify that for you today. It begins if, for instance, if a student is walking to and from school, when that student leaves their door till they arrive at the school door, and when that child leaves the school in the afternoon and arrive home, the disciplinary code is in effect. The disciplinary code is in effect on all Grand Rapids Public Schools transportation, including the rapid, when the child is walking to the bus, when the child is walking home from the bus. And quite naturally, all during the school day, while the child is at school. The code is in effect during after-school programs, whether it's Loop, or Loft, or any club that the students are participating in. After-school activities such as games, if there's a school play or some music program at the school, during all other school-sponsored activities. The code is in effect, and students are subject to all rules, rights, and responsibilities of the Uniform Disciplinary Code. And consequences of misconduct and disciplinary action will be consistently enforced. I want to speak briefly about classroom management, okay? And we included this segment because a large portion of the disciplinary acts occur in the classroom. When we are reading incident reports, and we have noticed that some incidents could have possibly been avoided if the adult would have kind of stepped back for a situation and evaluated the situation instead of reacting. However, we also know that if a student is hurting himself or herself or hurting another student, you have to react fast, and that's what we expect you to do, okay? So with that being said, we have identified a few strategies that we think will add a positive element to the classroom environment. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. We are sure that you have many, many more strategies that you currently use in your classroom that are working for you. But these are some of the ideas that we want to present to you. And one is set a positive tone. Respect students and let them know that you're glad that they're in your classroom. From the beginning, establish classroom rules and enforce them. Make sure they are aware of the consequences as well. Establish a positive relationship with students. Be genuine. Students know if you're real or not with them. Try to find at least one positive thing in each student. Be consistent, because students quickly pick up on your inconsistencies. Don't provoke students. Sometimes there are things that we may say or do, not intentionally though, that may cause student behaviors to escalate, especially if the student feels that you're degrading them in front of their peers, okay? And sometimes when that happens, the situation can go down here real fast. Stress the positives in students. Everybody likes to receive positive praise. They like to hear good things said about them. From time to time, we all need our own personal cheerleader, okay? And as you know, you may know that you may be the only positive comment, your positive comment may be the only positive comment that child receives, okay? Don't call students out in front of their peers, because their response is always of a negative nature, okay? Because they feel they have to get over on you in order to save face. Contact parents, keep them abreast of issues and concerns regarding their child. And don't always call them when there are negative things to share. Call them with positive things as well. And when you send students to the office, make sure they get there, because you are still responsible for them when they leave your classroom. And document, document, and document. Did I say document? Okay, make sure you document, okay? And the last strategy is utilize resources in the building to assist with student behaviors. Use your counselors and your social workers. Use your family support specialists, your school security officers, and KSSN services if you have them in your building, okay? I'm going to, like I said, this was not an exhaustive list. I'm sure you have yours that work for you. And if they're working, keep on using them. And I'm going to end my portion of this presentation with my favorite quote, and it simply states, "Children don't care about what you know. They want to know that you care." Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ebony Farley. I am a hearing officer in the Student Services Department. And I will be going over some of the portions of the handbook as well. As Dr. Hampton has already stated, classroom management is very important. And what we've done in our office is we did a general assessment of the cases that we see and the suspensions that we input, and we identify the top 5 disruptive behaviors that we most commonly see on a day-to-day basis. Disrespect to staff and students, cursing, name-calling, and so on is huge. And we want to empower our teachers and our staff. We are here as a support service, and if you have questions or concerns about how to deal with a student that is disrespectful to staff or students, feel free, as we often hear from your administrators, to call us and ask, and we'll try to guide you in that. We don't condone by any way, shape, or form students cursing out each other, cursing out their teachers, being disrespectful to their teachers, and we want to immediately begin to set the tone that we are not going to tolerate it. And so that is one that we commonly see that we want to address. Truancy, not just the student that is absent on a regular basis or late. We're talking about kids that are skipping school, leaving class, leaving school grounds without permission, hiding in the bathrooms, hanging out in the gymnasium, leaving and going to the store or to get food and returning to school. That's also a major concern for the school as far as safety, for security, as well as for the community. And parents send their kids to school expecting that they're in school, and all parents want to see their kids succeed, and so that too is also one of the top 5 concerns of disruptive behavior that we see. Electronic devices, I'm sure you see them often in the hallway, in the classroom, in the cafeteria, and coming to and from school, as well as excessive horseplay, aggressive behavior, and more recently we're seeing a lot of sexual inappropriateness, sexual innuendos, and inappropriate conversations. That can create an uncomfortable situation for us as adults, because sometimes we don't really know how to respond to that. And we know that in great detail by way of the hearing process, because oftentimes we have to get into the deep discussions about why students are saying or doing the things that they are doing. And there are multiple ways that we can combat that. You might want to be very cautious during class time if students are asking for passes to leave the bathroom, to go to the bathroom, and you see that they're girls going and boys often asking to go around the same time or right after one another, often can create concerns. But we want to try to combat that, and we want to become comfortable in addressing it with students and their parents. There are consequences for misconduct, And as I stated, we do want to empower staff, all staff in the building. That is not limited to classroom teachers, but teachers and custodians and paraprofessionals, volunteers in our building as well are also considered to be school staff during their time of service. Consequences may include, but are not limited to loss of the following. For students that engage in misconduct, they may lose the privilege of school dances, school proms, athletic events, graduation ceremonies, including walking the stage to receive their diploma, and any other school-sponsored activity that may occur in the evening, on the weekends, not necessarily at your building, but at a different location, but sponsored by GRPS. So suspension is not limited to simply a student being out of school. It could be that that student remains in school and does your resource intervention room. Is that what it's called here? They may be sent to the resource intervention room or be connected with a will designee, but at the same time, they may lose their privileges. And we want to be clear in letting students know that it is a privilege, first, to be in school. It's, you know, people fought for us to be in school. That is a privilege. It's further a privilege to be able to participate in the extracurricular activities. One important note about trespassing: anytime a student is suspended, expelled, or removed from the property, or suspended from participation in activities at a school-sponsored activity, that student, if they are found to be on the property or at an activity, would be considered trespassing, and they are subject to arrest. And so we want, and we do continually in our department, share that with students, that whenever they're suspended, they are not to be on any GRPS property, not on the playground, not at a basketball game. They are to stay home and not engage in any activity that we sponsor. SNAP suspensions. When we talk about empowering teachers, I don't know if all of you know, and maybe you can tell me by show of hands, if you know that as a classroom teacher, you do, under Public Act 103, reserve the right to suspend a student on a SNAP suspension for classroom misconduct. Okay, good. So there were several hands that did go up. Classroom teachers may suspend a student from the teacher's subject, class, or activity for up to 1 full day of that particular class period for the following acts of misconduct. I do want to note that it is imperative that teachers document, as Dr. Hampton said, document, because it is your responsibility to ensure that there are clear communications to the parents, to the principals, as well as to the student, that they have been suspended for your classroom or activity, and what for. SNAP suspensions could include physical. You could suspend a student for physical aggression toward self or others, which creates an unsafe classroom environment. Profane or vulgar comments, oral or written, towards classroom teachers, district employees, or students during class time or school-sponsored activities. And I don't want to limit that to school-sponsored activities or classroom time, because that student may not necessarily be in your classroom and say something that is inappropriate that they may still be consequenced for. Also, inappropriate physical contact of a sexual nature during class time or during a school-sponsored activity is also a suspendable behavior, as well as possession of a weapon or of dangerous weapons. When teachers engage in providing a student a SNAP suspension, the teacher must immediately notify the principal or the designee. That may be by way of picking up the phone and trying to contact the office, calling for security, sending an email. And then that student is to be sent to the principal with a written statement of the reason for suspension. Sometimes we see like a incident, it's a one-pager where you can capture the behavior and write a paragraph to accompany that, give a description, and then what you think is the appropriate consequence for the student, and that goes to the principal, and then typically the principal signs off on that, and then there is a consequence that is given. Teachers must also be responsible for appropriate supervision of the student while they are en route to the principal. That could be an escort, a classroom aide, a paraprofessional, a volunteer. Some adult in the building needs to ensure that that student doesn't detour, bypass the office and leave the building, or go in the bathroom and never report to the office to try to elude being consequenced for the inappropriate behavior. And finally, teachers must schedule a parent-teacher conference following the suspension as soon as possible, which may include the school counselor, school psychologist, or a school social worker. There are also responsibilities of principals, administrators, and/or their designees in regards to SNAP suspensions. The principal or designee must determine if the student is permitted to attend extracurricular activities, if any, or classes taught by other teachers. So you may suspend a student from a behavior in your classroom, and then once they get to the principal may say, this has been ongoing in multiple classes, and make a decision to suspend that student for some time greater than that one particular class period. The principal may attend a parent-teacher conference provided that the teacher has made a request, or if the parent guardian requests that the principal or designee is present. And if there is not an invite to participate, if the principal feels that they need to participate in that meeting or they would like to, they may also attend that as well. And lastly, principals must approve the student to return to class before they can simply walk back through the door and have a seat in their desk, at their desk or at their table. So they have to get permission to return to the class, the subject, or activities from which the student has been suspended. At this time, Susan.
Good morning. I'm Susan Terrell, also a hearing officer and the last in the lineup this morning. I'm going to be referencing the handbook. You all have a copy this morning, but I'm wondering how many of you received a copy early this school year? Great. Okay. If you would turn to page 52. Hopefully you're familiar with the handbook. This is the start of section 3, and it is the code of conduct first for K-5 and then 6-12. And we're hoping that this will be utilized even more than previously because of the need for consistency. And what I'm going to be talking about is basically the continuum of misconduct, you know, the minor infractions all the way to the serious offenses. This slide and the next is just a compilation of offenses that are listed. The ones we're highlighting today for K-5, and you'll see in your handbook there are more there. So page 53, 54, 55, level 1, 2, and 3 for grades K through 5. Then when you get to grades 6 through 12, you'll see 5 levels. Level 1 for both, well, all K through 12 is mildly disrupted, committed without malice, not purposefully disrespectful, but disruptive. Level 2, deliberate, disruptive to the orderly educational process. Level 3, seriously disruptive and in clear defiance of authority. Then when you get, for grades 6 through 12, to levels 4 and 5, you'll see that is seriously disruptive and in many cases illegal. And that's the time when we're going to be looking more at long-term suspension and the hearing process. And again, K through 5, that would be more of their level 3. But for your purposes, levels 4 and 5 are seriously disruptive and in many cases illegal. Is this the last one? This is also a compilation of all the offenses we're highlighting. And then move to the next slide. All right. Now we're moving into the public acts, the state law violations. And the first listed here is Public Act 104, physical assault. and it is defined, intentionally causing or attempting to cause physical harm to another through force or violence. And that does include physical assault of staff, and then Public Act 451, physical assault of student. Now I want to reference the grid that you have as a handout, if you could pull that out a minute. Everyone have that? All right. This is kind of our cheat sheet, and we would tend to utilize this more when we speak with administrators regarding the hearing process, but I wanted you to have that, or we wanted you to have that this morning, so that you can really look at definitions and kind of what we're looking at, because this is a state mandate. We don't have any flexibility. If there is physical assault of staff, then it's mandatory permanent expulsion. And permanent to me would kind of feel like forever, but that's not what it means. It's 180 school days, but it is worded as such, permanent mandatory. So that's what a student would be facing. And the student would go through the hearing process. We would hear from administration, we would hear from the student, we would hear from the parent, and we would render a decision. So moving on, we would also do that for physical assault of student. Again, traveling to or from school, so that's just not at school, it's on the way, on the bus, school-sponsored activities, after-school activities. And the next. This is verbal assault, and that's also under the heading of a Public Act 104. And as you can see on the grid, we do have a little flexibility. That's the one here, the last entry under Public Act 104. You'll see grades 6 through 12, it's not mandatory permanent. There's more flexibility in the consequence. We can suspend or expel up to 180, but it's still a serious offense and does require a hearing. The next is arson. And you're probably familiar with the definition of arson, but it's burning on school property or off-campus location during school-sponsored activities. And you will see that listed as the first offense under Public Act 250. There are a number under this act. For grades 6 through 12, again, permanent expulsion, 180 school days. The next slide, criminal sexual conduct. This is the criminal end of things, first degree, second degree. And we can reference that. Everything is defined in your handbook. That one starts on page 9. Criminal sexual conduct with the degrees, if you ever need that kind of detail, but that would be more of for an administrator as well. Serious offense requires a hearing. And the next slide is sexual acts. Now these were the ones that Ms. Farley was mentioning, and we're seeing them on a rise. Inappropriate touching, and that would be including staff. Students towards staff. Inappropriate sexual gestures, sex acts in the bathroom, in the stairwell. Indecent exposure would be urinating in places. Inappropriate use of electronics, where a student would record another in a sexual act and then display that. Those are all serious offenses. They aren't under the criminal sexual conduct code, but they warrant our attention. Lastly, under this Public Act is dangerous weapons. And again, referencing the grid, there's a definition for dangerous weapon. And it was told to me, for example, the knife blade has to be over 3 inches in length to be a state law violation, and it was told to me that some senator put that in the bill, and that's how it came out. So if a student has a knife with a blade less than 3 inches, it's not considered dangerous weapon, but it is a weapons violation. All weapons need to come down for a hearing for consistency. The other dangerous weapons are listed here, of course, handguns, explosive devices, those sorts of things. That requires mandatory permanent expulsion. And I also want to highlight, I don't know if this is any information that you would need, but I'll do it for today's purposes, that students in grades 6 through 12 who possess a dangerous weapon would face permanent expulsion. However, students in grades K through 5 who possess a dangerous weapon would not. For students K through 5, if they possess a firearm, they face permanent expulsion. And if they make a threat with a dangerous weapon, they would face expulsion. So just wanted to make that clarification. Your role in all of this is to report to administration, make sure that your principal and deans are aware of infractions. Security needs to investigate. There needs to be witness statements taken. And then if administration determines that this student would be referred to a hearing, then we would be looking at long-term suspension, 11 days plus. The administration may make the determination that they're only going to do a short-term suspension. But that really needs to be your responsibility to highlight those things as quickly as possible so that they can be addressed. All right. Questions and comments?